Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Well, today's video, I would like to talk about in regards to the upcoming skills and demand visa, which is going to replace the current TSS 482 visa. Well, that's well known as another way in saying it, it's employment sponsored visa. Now, this visa is from the migration strategy plan and the previous video. You may want to have a check out on my previous video on the descriptions, explanation of how this visa is, and we have predicted that it's gonna be the trend of the upcoming future. That's gonna be the largest chunk for the skill migration category visa, which is likely that a lot of the young people would like to access with. Now, we're going to talk about how you can actually capture this opportunity. Now, before we start talking about that, let's have a look at the migration strategy action plan. Now, I've talked about in detail about this action plan, and basically we're following it. Today is May. It's already May 2024, so another less than 2 months to go that we will hit the new financial year for 2024 and 25, and that we can see for the develop a new skills in demand visa with full mobility and clear pathway to permanent residence. And this is a new commitment, and as you can see, it's gonna implement in late 2024 right down there. Now that's crucial because we're coming into the second half of 2024, and that means it's soon that we will expect that this skill in demand visa will be online. So before we talk about how you can actually capture, let's have a look at the history, the background of how the skill migration has formed in the past. Now, Australian skill migration, I believe it's similar to Canada and the other countries, where they were first trying to identify a list of the demanded occupation or the occupational skills required or needed for the nations. Then they pull out the so-called skill occupation list. Well, believe it or not, in the past 20 years, they have changed the skill occupation list. I don't know how many times. I believe will be easily over 100 times. And they have changed into different versions, and every state have their own versions. So what traditionally as a proposed skill migrants will do is they follow that list and trying to pick the courses, because they want to study abroad. So they're trying to pick the courses to align with those occupation lists. Now, which is fine. And that has been going on for the past, I would say, about 20 years. Now, 2024, since all of these changes, and also we were in the post-pandemic, we have just hit with the last few years of the century pandemic, and that really changed the dynamic and a lot of trend, that including the immigration trend for Australia, and that's not just Australia, it's globally. So we are moving away from traditional skill occupation lists where people traditionally following what that list is gonna be, and then they pick whatever the courses they wanted to study. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is that once this new skills and demand visa concept is online, is in, that strategy will not suffice anymore. Why do I say that? It's actually outdated already. Now, how many people who has actually chose that way to actually trying to pick a course to study, for example, cookery, aiming that the chef or cookery is still on the list, and whilst they graduated, get their skill assessment done, and then they will successfully migrate. Now, how many people has failed to do that? How many people has failed? Not they fail, but the system has failed them in regards to this approach. As you can see, you probably have seen, probably that's going to be you, and that a lot of people around you is actually suffering those issues. So once skills in demand visa comes in, the employment sponsorship will actually take the vast majority of the skill migration. Now, what does that mean? So then you need to twist your concept. You no longer should follow the skill occupation list and pick on the courses that you should be studying. And my recommendation here is, by understanding fully on the policy and procedure and regulation and how we have been in the practice for the last 20 years, my recommendation is, once this skills in demand visa comes in, you really need to find a course, whether or not you study in Australia or not in Australia, okay? Because the new point test system is not gonna really complement people who actually pick Australia as a study destination. They're gonna make it a fair ground for anyone that study anywhere, okay? So whether or not you like to come to Australia to study, or you study elsewhere, you know, US or within your home country, going to Canada or UK, pick the real courses that is of your interest. That, and the interest by means not just having solely wanted to understand a little bit of the philosophy or whatever discipline that's gonna be, but more towards what you're gonna work for. You gotta imagine a mid and long term. Okay, medium and long term, that whilst you're in the workforce, that is your career that you really enjoy to work with. So that once you study and you graduated, you get the job that you like to do, okay? And you can continue within that occupation to prolong a longer time, because the longer time you get more work experiences and your performance is better, your salary level is higher, and it's more likely that you will be meeting the requirement of skills in demand visa. And what are those requirements? First of all, you got to be in the occupation that your knowledge, your bachelor or master degree is within, and then you got to have at least 2 years of work experiences, and obviously, and your salary performance that's got to be offered with the Australian employers got to be 70,000 or higher. So within those ranges, if you do not have that interest in those occupations, you solely pick an occupation for the purpose to migrate, that will be the wrong way to do it. You really need to pick something that is of your interest and that somehow aligns with the criteria within skills in demand visa. Then you will be acing all that pathway through, or your life or your migration plan there. So you can see how the concept is actually changing, and how the policy and regulation is changing the way that people actually pick what to study, or whether or not they come to Australia to study, or they probably study elsewhere but still access to that migration pathway in Australia. Anyway, that's just a little bit of my thoughts, because I've been consulting with hundreds of thousands of people already, and people are still in that old paradigm. And what I'm trying to say is, there's a shift of paradigm, a new trend is coming up, and you really need to get that mindset in your head. Anyway, should you have more question query, more than welcome to leave comment right down below. I'll see you next video. Goodbye.